We're giving £88 million for condoms and contraception in Pakistan, all while Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are potentially plotting to raise your income tax.
No, this is important. Mark my words. Labour will raise your taxes. It's in their DNA. Your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. OK,
you name it, Labour will tax it.
But he wasn't wrong, was he? It is utterly unthinkable that this Labour government that has spaffed billions upon billions of your hard-earned taxpayer money would now put the final nail in their electoral coffin and potentially break yet another manifesto pledge by raising income tax.
Mr. Speaker, in their manifesto last year, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Yes.
Last year, in its manifesto, Labour promised not to increase income tax, not to increase national insurance, and not to increase VAT. Does the Prime Minister still stand by his promises?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Leader of the Opposition is now finally talking about the economy. I can update the House, Mr. Speaker. Retail sales are higher than expected. Inflation is lower than expected. Growth has been upgraded this year.
It seems all but confirmed now, doesn't it? No denial in the House of Commons today when challenged. Just the same old 14 years of failure line that nobody with half a brain in Britain is buying anymore. But if it does go ahead, then an income tax hike really would be a slap in the face, wouldn't it? Because this government has binged on your cash, unleashing billions on ideological crusades. Here is some of them. 30 billion committed to short-term funds on net zero, 8.3 billion birthing GB energy that's only pushed your bills up and will continue to do so, by the way, 12.6 billion for the Department of Energy Security and net zero. Their budget is going up 16% by 2028. Plus, 20 billion for scientifically unproven carbon capture plants. Do you remember those? And let's not get started on the 14 billion just for legal migrants on universal credit in the last 15 months alone. And what about all the bureaucracy Starmer and Reeves promised to cut? Well, they've set up even more of these non-governmental departments, devouring 150 billion yearly. Labour added 27 new ones by March 2025, with a whopping 570 diversity networks across government departments involving almost 3,000 committee members. And guess what? The annual cost is about 700 grand a year to you, the taxpayer. DEI waste comes in at 27 million in the public sector, with 250 grand for council inclusion officers and other absurdities like 2.3 million on Kenyan cups and 500 grand to the Indian tech sector. Oh, and do you remember when Keir Starmer told you they were cleaning up politics and cracking down on cronyism?
To clean up politics, I will restore standards in public life with a total crackdown on cronyism.
Well, it turns out that companies that donated to Labour were awarded £138 million in contracts. That's a report by the think tank Autonomy Institute. Well, they have found that. Oh, and how can we forget the Chagos surrender, costing taxpayers £30 billion? Oh, but we've all got to feel sorry for little old Rachel Reeves, haven't we?
And may I take this opportunity to thank our outstanding British Transport Police for everything that they do to support staff and passengers.
Yeah, do you know who I feel sorry for? The taxpayer. I know it's been tough for Rachel, and she sits there on a lovely parliamentary salary that comes with a guaranteed yearly pay rise and her free taxpayer-funded accommodation, all while, get this, renting out her old digs, earning her 74 grand annually in rental income. And it gets worse, doesn't it, for the Chancellor, because breaking tonight in the Daily Mail, Rachel Reeves has broken housing regulations by unlawfully renting out her family home without a licence after entering Downing Street. The Chancellor has tonight referred herself to the independent ethics advisor and had to admit her error to the Prime Minister. She failed to obtain a rental licence when she placed her family home in Dulwich on the rental market last year as she moved with her family into number 11 Downing Street. Well, well, well. Maybe I need to get some more toast ready. Well, let's be clear, though. Your services are not getting better with more taxpayer cash. They are, if anything, getting worse. All you'll be doing is giving this government, more money for it to blow on ideological BS like green energy zealotry, reparations in the form of condoms to Pakistan, and an income tax break for Mauritians that we never even had imperial rule over. Rather than the government going bankrupt or controlling its spending like we're all expected to do, aren't we? Instead, it steals more money from you while it continues its ideological crusade against the British people.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just live in credit. You know, whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
But let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, property expert and Reform UK councillor, Russell Quirk, and journalist and broadcaster, Nina Mishkov. Welcome, everybody. I think we're going to have to get started with this breaking news, aren't we? I think the public wants to know what this is all about, and thankfully, we've got a housing expert on the panel tonight. And what were the chances, Russell? We almost like we made it happen. Russell, do you have any idea what this little nuance is here that she's been caught out on?
Yes, so there are certain boroughs of London that insist on licensing. So if you're a landlord and you seek to rent out your property, and obviously by default, if you're renting out your property, you become a landlord automatically. In some boroughs, including the one in which Rachel Reeves has this particular property, you have to have a licence. The licence cost is something around £800 to £900, depending on the borough. And it seems that, yes, in an absence of mind, Rachel Reeves has forgotten or not realised that the property that she owns is indeed within one of those areas. I have to say, though, somewhat controversially for someone on the centre-right, this is not the biggest scandal in property terms that has befallen the Labour front bench. It's not as big as Angela Rayner and her escaping stamp duty. It's not as big, I don't think, as the Lucy Powell story yesterday. And 4 other Labour MPs that obviously are creaming it from the taxpayers, seemingly, in terms of renting out their properties to other MPs and then claiming those rents back on expenses. And probably not even as big as, let's not forget, 15 months ago, the Wahid Ali Keir Starmer story in terms of the gift of a £20 million penthouse in Covent Garden. So there is a litany of these things.
He stayed there. It wasn't a gift. He stayed
there for quite some time.
Yes, but, you know...
it was registered, I believe, as a gift, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a gift, for heaven's sake. And what I was going to say to you, I understand that she let the house out through a letting agent. Now, wouldn't it be beholden for the letting agent to say, have you got a licence? Because in this borough, you know, you would imagine that would happen.
We don't know they didn't.
Also, I'm not very good at maths, but I can add up. And apparently she's letting it out for $3,200 a month, which doesn't equate to $74,000
That's her other house, I think. That's her other house.
Her other house. OK, well, this one says $3,200.
This is her family home, I think,
Put her 4-bedroom detached house on the market for...
Sorry, when did the Labour front bench become the land and property owning gentry?
Well, no, I was just about to ask.
Goodness sake!
I understand this licence stuff might not be the biggest deal in the world, but I think the public will say, look, you promised us clean politics. You promised there'd be zero tolerance, Keir Starmer, and now you're actually going to make...
This is the key point.
He's going to make an excuse for it, is he?
This is the key point. I am relatively sympathetic to people of all political stripes who make a slip of the pen. But the Labour Party prospectus at the last election could not have been clearer. Firstly, they were not going to raise any taxes. And secondly, they were going to be as pure as the driven snow on absolutely everything. No more one rule for thee and one rule for me. A completely clean bill of health. A level of ethical behaviour that would be a breath of fresh air. And on both points, they failed utterly. Quite why you need a licence to rent out your property is absolutely beyond...
Can I suggest why? It's because those London boroughs want to use that as a form of stealth taxation. It's got nothing to do with licensing, it's all about income.
Well, I'm not sure that should be at the discretion of a London borough. Nevertheless, what's the penalty for not having a licence?
I don't know, hopefully we'll find out.
But anyway,
we're about to find out.
It's a Southwark Council, which with the local authority, requires that private landlords in certain areas, including where her house is located, to have a selective licence. So it's not even all of Southwark. So I don't blame her.
She has broken the law. She has broken the law.
It's not a big deal.
She has broken the law.
It's not a big deal.
I know, Nina, but you know what? There will be... I mean, listen, some people would say Boris Johnson having a birthday cake wasn't a big deal, right? Where do the big deals start and stop? And this is the problem,
I don't think that was a big deal.
I think there is a two-tier outrage. If this was a Tory Chancellor, they'd be calling for his head. Because it's Rachel Reeves, she might cry again and they'll let her off. And I think this, at the time when she is about to impose, and probably, by the sounds of it, we don't know for sure.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know, but it looks like they haven't denied it, which they would do if they weren't considering it, an income tax.
Well, that's exactly
this is the problem, isn't it?
That's got to be... I mean, this is a screw-up by Rachel Reeves and embarrassing, but it is going to be nothing compared to the embarrassment that we're going to get on November the 26th.
It's pretty poor.
There is going to be an absolutely ghastly tax raid. It is going to be a clear breach of their manifesto commitment. As you rightly pointed out in your introduction, there is vast government waste that they seem unwilling or incapable of tackling.
Which they said they would, didn't they?
And therefore the burden's going to fall on the taxpayer.
But it's very, very poor optics. But the other thing, because we've now had this progression of mess-ups by the Labour front bench with regard to specifically property stories, it is actually the property sector that is going to have the broadest shoulders, shall we say, to use probably a phrase that Rachel will use when she's at the dispatch box on November the 26th. So the irony of, it seems, lots and lots of Labour front benches getting away with it when it comes to property taxation and property licence income, but at the same time imposing potentially a mansion tax and other such taxes on the poor unsuspecting public. I mean, there is an irony to that, I think.
Yeah, Nina?
I would just like to take issue with something you said, Alex, which is that you have to be bird-brained to sort of buy the argument that it's the 14 years of Tory government. The thing is, it was true when they took power, and it's still true. We may be bored hearing about it, but it's absolutely true. They inherited after 14 years of absolute disastrous government. And you cannot fix that in 15 months.
But the problem with that, Nina, is Rachel Reeves said that she had fixed it. That she said after the last budget.
Well,
I have fixed it.
Well, once we got the 20 billion black hole out of the way.
I will not need to come back for any more.
Circumstances change.
Circumstances are not the Tories.
Circumstances
circumstances are not the Tories.
That sounds a bit like... That sounds a bit like the recollections vary.
She's doing some very positive things. She came back from Saudi Arabia with like a $6.4 billion deal for the Davos of the desert.
Why do you need to put up taxes then?
She might not need to if she does more more deals like
I
that.
think she will
If
be.
you remember, the Labour Party slammed the Tories for going out to Saudi Arabia, so they were going cap in hand from dictator to dictator. So this is what I mean. It's this two-tierness that really winds the public up. Don't sit in opposition and be morally righteous and then go and do the same things. I was also talking about the contracts stuff there as well, handing out contracts to Labour donors, which they took the Tories to town over. And I think this is what really enrages us. We can forgive little mistakes from politicians, but when you say you're holier than thou, well, you better be it. Anyway, on the claims about contracts and donations, a government spokesperson said this: all government contracts are awarded fairly and transparently in line with the Public Contracts Regulations in 2015. All decisions on contracts are rigorously scrutinised to deliver the best value for the taxpayer. And on the subject of the Chancellor's rental income, a Labour Party spokesman said this: the rental incomes have been declared in the usual way in accordance with the rules. And on that breaking news tonight, of course, reports in the Daily Mail, the Chancellor broke a housing law. A spokesperson for the Chancellor said, since becoming Chancellor, Rachel Reeves has rented out her family home through a lettings agency. She had not been made aware of the licensing requirement, but as soon as it was brought to her attention, she took immediate action and has applied for the licence. This was an inadvertent mistake, and in the spirit of transparency, she has made the Prime Minister and the Independent Advisor on Ministerial Standards and the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards aware. Well, there we go, everybody. That's it, all solved.